Get a Better Broadcast, podcast and video voice. Hello, I'm Peter Stewart. So we've been talking, haven't we, about different pitches, different registers and so on. And I thought we'd just kind of nip back talking about accents and also pitch within accents and what makes someone appear to be more sexually attractive. Now, we've already spoken a few days ago about how men, if they've got a deeper voice, seem to be more attractive because that is an indicator, apparently, of more testosterone. So that's, I guess, something which people have already kind of considered and thought about and agreed with over the course of the last, indeed, several years. That's kind of well known. But what about the actual pitch of different accents? Now, we've spoken about pitches of different accents before as well. Join those two issues together, pitch in different accents, and therefore pitch and attractiveness, and what do you end up with? Well, there is a BBC explanatory video. I link to it in the show notes, which talk about the laws of attraction with accents and also pitch as well. And I'm going to bring a little bit of that to you. It lasts about 7 minutes. Today, obviously for copyright reasons, I'm just going to review it, and so I'm just going to play a little bit, and I wonder what you might think of it. If you want to see the whole video, then as I say, the link to it is in our show notes. But listening to what they say here near the end of this particular video on Get a Better Broadcast, podcast and video voice.
In the history of studying female voices and attraction, research from all around the world seems to suggest that women with higher pitched voices are more romantically successful. It's true that younger women have higher pitched voices, so this may give clues to their age and therefore how reproductively desirable they are. This conclusion has been repeated in some speed dating studies where women were observed to raise the pitch of their voice while on dates. In the last few years, some research has suggested that this might be changing, that women might actually lower their voices when speaking to an attractive man.
We set people up in a real speed dating situation. They spoke to each person for 6 minutes and then moved on. And what they do is they have a little card where at the end they can click whether they like the person or not. And so with those data, we had voice recordings of each person from each date, because each person was wearing a microphone. And we also had their preferences. And so we could essentially look at, compared to the baseline of that person's typical voice, do they raise or lower their voice pitch, for example, when they're speaking to somebody who they fancy? And what we found was actually women tended to lower their voice pitch to men that they ticked as a yes, men that they preferred, especially if those men were preferred by other women. And so it's quite possible that they are communicating maturity and competence in that context. And men actually also showed a preference for women who spoke in the lower voice pitch.
This one study looked at French students, which, until it is replicated elsewhere, might mean deep-voiced French women were a particular preference of French men.
We, for a long time, got focused on the universals, and it's very innovative to be interested in the cultural specificities. And typically, our findings on French males evaluating or judging females' voices was kind of new, because we didn't find the same result in any other language or any other culture.
It's interesting stuff, isn't it? So what is going on there in that video and also in that test that they were talking about with that speed dating event in France among students? Is it because as women's place changes in society and their role and the attitude and the perception of women, and I mean this in a totally, kind of scientific way, if you like, and sociological way, that they are automatically reducing the pitch or lowering the pitch of their voice to pitch match the men? Or is it something which is particular in France? So is it the age group of the people in that test which gave the results, the age group together with the sex, of course, because they were testing women's voices? Or is it that that's just happening in France? it would be really intriguing to know whether the male perception of what a sexy voice is and the voice that women are naturally, inverted commas, putting on when they meet a man who they see as sexually attractive would be replicated around the world with the different pitches across country borders. Interesting stuff. Watch that with great interest. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Tomorrow we've got another video clip for you. Tomorrow we're talking about, now I don't know whether you know this gentleman, Kenneth Williams, a huge star in the UK back in the day in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Very, very prolific on TV, on stage, in films as well. And he had a particularly interesting way of talking. And tomorrow we've got a video clip of him talking about forcing his voice to do something that it wasn't supposed to do and what the outcome was. As Get a Better broadcast, podcast and video voice continues. From London, I'm Peter Stewart.